Hey guys, Chris here from Carolot Farm. Happy New Year. It's now January and so much has happened in the month of December that I want to take some time today and catch you up, fill you in, and show you around because things are quite different than they were just a month ago. We have Snuggles here eating in this first feedlot. Sweetheart is just beside her. So the two of them are still companions. That has not changed. But what has changed is their turnout paddock. These two mares are now in the barnyard, which is where I'm standing, and they have access to the ring, which allows us to rest their back fields, which is great. The reason for that, though, is because we were finally able to move the other three up to the winter paddock. Now that it's January, Sweetheart is still eating her hay pellets, the teff pellets, but she's only eating about half of the amount. And now that she's eating less, I'm feeding a little more of it to Snuggles, who is her companion, because there's just not much grass out here in their paddocks. But because Sweetheart did so well in December on loose hay, she's continuing to have loose hay, and so that is working really well. And I'm just so happy to say that her asthma flare-ups have been much quieter. We've not had any issues for about a month and a half or two now, so that is fantastic. For the first 2 weeks of December, I'm getting hay right now, we had I think 3 snowstorms. It was silly. I mean, here in Virginia, we don't get a lot of snow. So to have 3 storms in like 2 weeks time, it was maybe even 3 storms in 10 days. It was really silly. So we fed a ton of hay in December. And not only did we have those snows, they were small snows, only a few inches, but we had these 2 different like polar vortex plunges where it got really cold down into the teens. And so because of both of those issues, we did feed a ton of hay. And that was when I started giving Sweetheart loose hay because I felt she needed to eat more forage overnight to stay warm. When I went and checked, I think we fed at least 12 bales. We may have even gotten into a 13th. So we fed a lot more hay in the month of December than we had previously. And that was one because Sweetheart was eating, which was a good thing. Her allergies allowed her to have loose hay. But because it was so cold and snowy, everyone was just getting more hay because as they eat hay, their bodies produce heat, and therefore that's what we were doing to really help them stay comfortable in those super cold temperatures. So my hay had dropped low, but my really good friend just brought us 25 more bales, which is fantastic. It's the same hay that I had been feeding. It's what I bought this fall. And so now we're in very good shape. But one other thing I want to mention about hay is this. In the month of December, when it was so cold and just gross out, I was feeding my old hay that has the orange strings. This hay is very stemmy. It's not the best quality, but it was perfectly safe to feed to my horses. At one point in the fall, I thought maybe I had lost all of it, but I found many bales were still perfectly good to feed. But when I was feeding this hay in the month of December, because it's stemmy, the horses did not eat all of it, but that was great because it then left me debris that I could use for traction and even bedding in the stalls to some degree. So I'm happy to report that we've used almost all of the old hay up. And so everything that you see back in here is pretty much brand new hay, with the exception of the very bottom ground level. I did leave old bales there just to act as like another barrier because there is still the possibility that we have a moisture issue. So that's the hay update for now, January. Now that I'm back to feeding the new hay with the blue strings, not only is it much more tender, it was cut just this past summer, but the horses, when they eat it, they eat everything. I mean, you can't hardly even see where I've put the hay down, which is great because they're very efficiently eating the hay. So again, there are these pros and cons to all sorts of things, but because the weather is decent and the ground isn't mucky, I'm really glad that they're eating the hay and not wasting those remnants because there's no need for them right now. This hay is so nice. When I go to shake it out, I mean, it just falls apart. It's so nice and leafy. The horses are very happy to have been transitioned back over to this. I am, however, choosing not to put hay in the stalls, though. I would only do that for Sweetheart and Snuggles if we had real inclement weather and I was worried that it would get ruined out in the field. But so far, since they've been here, we've had really fair weather and I've not had to put hay in the stalls. I'm also, though, trying to be very cognizant of not having hardly any shaving or debris in here. I've got just enough to absorb any sort of moisture should they go to the bathroom. So I'm trying to make sure that the stalls are as relatively dust-free and clean as possible. And again, we're just not using them quite the same way that we did when Lady and the boys were down here. Snuggles is telling me she's ready to come out and get her hay. Hey, sweet girl. The horses, the minis, have taken to chewing the paint off my newly painted black fences. Just a casualty of the winter here. Now that we've finished feeding the 2 mares, they're all settled for the morning. Let's go check on the other 3 who are up in the winter turnout. We were able to move them out there. I think it was the very end of December. December was so busy with the snows and the holidays that it wasn't the first part of December, but the end when we finally moved them. But they've been out there for over a week. They're doing really, really well. But I know they want their breakfast, so let's go check on them. Having my horses split though in these 2 different parts of the farm, kind of the rear of the farm and the front of the farm, it does mean everything takes longer, and it means I'm getting more steps in, which isn't a bad thing. But I do hate that I have to kind of feed them at slightly different times. I can't be in 2 places at the same time. Now that we have feed for the other 3, let's go head out front. So I was telling you, we moved Lady, Shenanigans, and Rocky out to the front winter turnout in the very tail end of December. I think it was even after Christmas, before New Year's. And they've been really doing quite well. They were so happy to get out here on the grass. But let me walk to the fence here and show you. In just the week and a half that they've been out here, they have already done quite a number on the grass. And so, again, it's a blessing and a curse, I guess. Let me show you though. The lower part of the field there was super green when they first came out, and it's already looking more brown than green. But they're still happy. There's still more for them to graze on out here than there was in the back. And so this area is working out really well. We're still trying to figure out our new routines. You know, Lady is still the more dominant one. You just saw her chase the boys off. I've got grain on my arm here. So what I've been doing though is I set the grain down right here by my feedlots, which is where I will feed Rocky and Shenanigans. And then Lady eats inside the barn. Now that I have the boys closed in their feedlots, I'm gonna close Lady inside this small little barnyard area. This is under the roof, and that's where she will have her breakfast. And then once she's done, I'll turn her back out into the big field. But this is working really well. We have these different areas where we can separate the horses out. So that's great. So now that I have the boys in their little feedlots eating, it's time to drop feed for Lady. Lady has not changed her feeding. She still gets her same amount of Triple Crown Senior plus an apple. And then in the little purple bucket, she has her hay pellets, and she still goes back and forth and cleans everything up pretty good. So I'm so happy to see that she still has her appetite. The boys are still just getting a handful of the Triple Crown Senior in the morning. In the evenings, they're getting a scoop of hay stretcher pellets. Actually, it's the Teff hay. It's not hay stretcher. They are just the hay pellets. I keep saying hay stretcher, but at morning breakfast, they just get a handful, which is what they had been getting. So that has not really changed. Now that the boys are finished eating, I'm going to turn them out. And Lady here, she'll continue to eat on her grain for another 25 to 30 minutes. It still takes her quite a bit longer. But because the boys are finished and because we have grass for them to come and nibble on, I'm going to let them out. And I just heard from the farrier who said that he had a cancellation and he'll be out today. So that's great. Everyone needs a trim. And I think I'm gonna go get some breakfast. But first, let's turn these boys out and then I can eat while Lady finishes eating. Having our minis turned out here in this winter paddock has been so wonderful. For the last several weeks that they've been here, we've not had to give them any hay because there had been plenty of grass. Now, I did tell you that the grass is beginning to turn. They are eating it down. So just last night, I did give them a flake of hay and they scarfed it up. So I think in the evenings, I'll start to give them a flake to share among the 3 of them. There still is plenty of grass to nibble on. And so for right now, that should be plenty for them. Being so much smaller than a full-size horse, they don't need as much hay or as much grass. And because they're getting a little bit of supplemental grain, they should be fine. But I'll keep an eye on them because as winter progresses and as the grass continues to be nibbled down, they might soon need hay morning and night, but not near as much as when they are in the back. You may have seen that it looks a bit like a construction zone out here around our front run-in, our barn for the minis here at the winter turnout. That's because not only was December crazy with snow and the holidays, but we broke ground on our barn expansion project. We have put all of our vertical posts in, they're sunk in concrete, and so we will be enclosing this entire long side of the barn, as well as extending the roof and enclosing the end here. We're gonna have stalls under cover, as well as more covered run-in shelter area. So it's really exciting. It's a bit of a mess right now, but there is so much that is still going on here at the farm. These little boys are so funny. They play a lot more since they've been out here in the winter turnout. They chase each other, they nip each other. They're just so silly, but such good friends. It's a good thing they have each other. Lady wants nothing to do with it, and they know that. They never even try to play with her. Only each other. If Snuggles were out here, you know, she would play too. They're just so silly. They bite each other's knees and hocks. Rocky is demonstrating for you here exactly why we have an electric hot wire between the bottom two boards on the rest of our farm for the minis. They love to graze through the boards. You know, the grass is always greener on the other side, they say, and there's some truth to that. But by doing so, they do tend to stress these boards because sometimes they get to leaning on them, and that can bust the boards, the horses can get out. So we know we need to put our hot wire up, and Rocky is just showing us that we need to do so sooner rather than later. What a helper. We are so happy to have the horses in the front winter turnout. I just can't say it enough. It's been such a relief. I know they're in a better place. It's really helping Lady because she especially needed the grass. It's helped to alleviate some of the hay that we were burning through super fast earlier in the month. And again, it just makes for happy horses. So I'm so glad it worked out. Hopefully one day soon we'll have another paddock set up, and then I'll have a second place where I can put other horses. Because Sweetheart and Lady don't get along that well, I'm very hesitant to put them together out here unless I really had to. Right now, keeping them separate seems to work best. But once we have our expansion on the barn and I have more turnout space, I will feel better about it. But right now, it's just a really small 12 by 12. And I'm pretty certain that Lady would choose to stand out in the elements versus huddle under there with Sweetheart, who can be a little grouchy. So right now, that's why the girls are separated, if you were wondering. But I am hoping before long to have everyone out here, but it might require another paddock. Thank you so much for joining me today as I showed you around and told you a little bit about all of the happenings that took place in December. Here it is January. Everyone's doing well. I hope you had a great holiday season wherever you are. Check back soon. We'll have tons of updates, especially on that barn and how everyone continues to do. And we hope to see you in the future. Bye, guys.